Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening.
Well, you first go back to the principles and the facts, and the reality is that it was the government's case is misguided, and so we will fight it and we'll refute it in court.
US government's case is misguided and we will fight it in the court, says Adobe's CEO Shantanu Narayan. This comes just a day after Biden administration sued Adobe for allegedly violating consumer protection laws with hidden termination fees. That's a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. Jensen Huang is an absolute legend and NVIDIA is not a one-hit wonder, says Adobe CEO Shantanu Narayan. He believes AI will be disruptive and will also act as a massive enabler. That's another exclusive. Block deals worth 25,000 crore rupees on Dalal Street today as promoters and foreign investors cash in on the high valuations. Vodafone PLC offloads 18% stake in Indus Star. WAPCO Asia sells over 7% stake in ZF Commercial Vehicle Systems. Gland Pharma's Chinese promoter sells over 6% stake. Top economists meet Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and ministry officials ahead of the budget. Sources say discussions centered on sustaining growth and long-term investments. Government was urged to maintain fiscal deficit target at 5.1% for next year. The upcoming GST Council meeting on Saturday could consider quashing retrospective tax demands for some sectors, including online gaming. Sources say Gold Council could clarify on tax levy on spectrum allotment and ESOPs provided by a company to employers. Union Ministry for Heavy Industry sets up a task force to formulate a new capital goods policy. Sources say emerging sectors like artificial intelligence and robotics likely to get a leg up. Adani Group plans to invest $100 billion over the next decade in energy transition projects, says Gautam Adani. Apart from building solar parks and wind farms, Adani is setting up facilities to manufacture green hydrogen, wind turbines and solar panels. India's Internet and Mobile Association moves the Supreme Court against the government's new self-declaration portal for advertisements, warns of severe impact on the ad ecosystem. Advertising industry bodies also contemplating moving the top court. Heatwave scorches large parts of North India. At least 15 persons have died of heat stroke in the national capital region in the last 72 hours. A report by United Nations Human Rights Office says the Israeli authorities are responsible for war crimes in Gaza. The report also condemns crimes against humanity by Hamas and other armed groups. At least 17 people have been killed in refugee camps in just the last 24 hours, according to the Hamas officials. Pyongyang rolls out the red carpet for Russian President Putin on his first North Korea trip in 24 years. Kim Jong-un says ties between the two nations are entering a period of new prosperity. Putin thanks Kim for his unwavering support on Ukraine. Well, let's dive straight into the day's market action. Now, sensex and nifty hit record highs in early trade, but the gains could not be sustained, with the nifty ending in the red and sensex ending marginally in the green. Mid-cap saw sharper cuts, but the Nifty Bank Index was an outperformer. In fact, barring financials and IT, all sectoral indices ended in the red. And well, speaking of the markets, Dalal Street witnessed a rush of block deals worth 25,000 crore rupees today as promoters and foreign investors cashed in on high valuations. Vodafone PLC has offloaded 18% stake in Indus Star, while WAPCO Asia sold over 7.5% stake in ZF Commercial Vehicle Systems. Meanwhile, Gland Pharma's Chinese promoter sold over 6% stake. Well, here's the big newsmaker this evening. A day after the US government filed a lawsuit against Adobe, the company's chairman and CEO, Shantanu Narayan, spoke exclusively to CNBC TV 18. He termed the US government's case as misguided and promised to fight it in the court. The Biden administration sued Adobe for allegedly violating consumer protection laws with hidden termination fees. Adobe has denied all the charges. Speaking to Shireen Bhan at Adobe headquarters, Narayan said that the world has entered an era of artificial intelligence and acknowledged that it will be disruptive, while also adding that AI can be a massive enabler and a tailwind at that. After a backlash, Adobe has clarified that it will not train its AI models on user content.
The latest challenge that you're up against is the US government looking at whether, again, there is a violation of policy and whether there are sort of fees that are being collected without consent or, explicit consent and so on and so forth. I mean, how do you deal with something like that?
Well, you first go back to the principles and the facts. And the reality is that it was the government's case is misguided. And so we will fight it and we'll refute it in court. I think if you take a step back and you think about what Adobe has pioneered, the subscription economy and the digital economy is everywhere. I think when I try and read your content, it's probably going to be available through a paywall as a subscription.
Yeah.
We have open and flexible policies where some people can pay for it up front and get a discount and others pay for it on a month-to-month. So having flexibility makes sense. But, it's something that we will address, but we certainly believe that we have been flexible. We offer customer choice and we're completely transparent about this. When you subscribe to the plan, it says annual bill monthly. And it's an annual plan. And so, but at the end of the day, for us, what really motivates us is the fact that we're impacting and innovating. And I think if people didn't feel like we were innovating, they wouldn't be subscribing to our services. And that's what we have to keep focusing on. Well, first, I'm really proud of what our team has done. When you think about the content authenticity initiative, something that we pioneered, over 3,000 companies have now signed up with it. While people understand that AI has all this power, I think it's fair to say there's some heightened sensitivity around what does this mean to me? And so, that I wouldn't call it trust deficit as much as questions about what that is. And a company like Adobe has a leadership role that we need to play, not just for ourselves with our customers, but for the industry at large about our terms of use. I think there were some questions, and legally everybody who looked at that understood that the content belongs to them. We're not training our models based on that. But I think perhaps in English we could have done a simpler job of clarifying it. So, which we have. And so, we've rolled it out. We are creator friendly. I think the product innovation that we're delivering, Shireen, it always, warms your heart when you look at the amount of innovation that we're delivering. And I think we've talked about this in the past. AI is going to be this incredibly enabling technology that allows us to, target a broader set of customers. And so I guess it's the era of AI. Now we can create campaigns, we can create content, we can address the content supply chain. So I'm completely convinced that AI, while I acknowledge it'll be disruptive, at the end of the day, it's going to be a massive enabler and a tailwind.
Well, tech giant NVIDIA is now the world's most valuable company, beating Microsoft and Apple. NVIDIA's $3.34 trillion market cap is nearly double of what it was at the start of 2024. The company had crossed the $1 trillion threshold last June. This is the first time a company other than Apple or Microsoft has held the top spot in the last 5 years. Here's an interesting bit of trivia, though. Only 6 nations in the world have a GDP higher than NVIDIA's market cap. These countries are US, China, Germany, Japan, India, and the United Kingdom. Here is Adobe's Shantanu Narayan on NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang and the meteoric rise of the company.
This is the shock and awe story of the last several years, what's gone on with NVIDIA. I mean, what do you make of the kind of rise that we've seen of NVIDIA?
Well, Jensen's a, absolute legend in the industry, and having known him for decades and considering him a friend, what I would say is that his ruthless, single-minded, drive to continue to deliver innovation. I mean, he has this vision of what he wanted to do with autonomous cars. And so I think this is not a one-hit wonder for NVIDIA. I think it's, decades of consistently looking around the corner and executing against it. So I could not be more happy for him.
Well, you can catch that entire conversation with Shantanu Narayan at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. And well, back home, top economists met Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and ministry officials ahead of the budget. Sources have said that discussions centered on sustaining growth, long-term investments. Government was urged to maintain fiscal deficit target at 5.1% for next year. Shivani Bazaz has more details. Shivani.
Well, the finance minister met with top economists of the country ahead of the upcoming budget to discuss the state of Indian economy and also the important issues impacting the growth of the economy. Now, sources tell CNBC TV 18 that the meeting focused on sustaining growth, long-term investments and also addressing inconsistencies in the Indian economy. What we are given to understand is that key issues included policy continuity on 4 fronts, which is rural development, women's empowerment, support to the farmers and youth programs. These are the 4 focus areas of the government right now. Now, the economists emphasized maintaining the fiscal deficit target of 5.1% next year as well. Now, they also highlighted that the need to sustain growth momentum, increase capital expenditure and also boost private sector investments in the Indian economy. Now, another point that we are given to understand is that strengthening consumption growth and domestic manufacturing were also on the agenda. Importantly, job creation was underscored as a priority for the new budget.
It was a free-flowing discussion about the priorities for the budget. And so some of us raised issues of how to sustain this growth momentum and capex and private sector investment and how, to focus on consumption growth to be strengthened, how to strengthen the domestic manufacturing sector, because job creation should be the overriding priority for any economic policy and budget.
Well, the GST Council will be meeting this Saturday for the first time since Lok Sabha elections. Sources have told us that the Council could consider quashing retrospective tax demands for some sectors, including online gaming. Timsy Jaipuria is joining us now with more details. Timsy, take us through the other issues and the agenda before the GST Council meeting.
Well, that's right. It seems to be a full plate for the GST Council, which is likely to meet on 22nd June. Sources say that the Council is likely to clarify on issues with respect to GST levy on spectrum allotment to telecom companies. Council could say that GST levy on payment of license fees, spectrum usage charges applies on the due date or the payment date, whichever is earlier. And in case of installment payments or deferred payments, GST should be discharged accordingly. Similarly, a clarity is likely for the highway builders. Sources say that under the hybrid annuity model, a builder is liable to pay GST at the issue of invoice or payment receipt, whichever is earlier. In case there is an interest component on installments or the annuity payable by NHAI to the builder, even that will be taxable. Council is also likely to issue clarification on a plethora of issues, including taxability of reimbursement of shares as ESOPs, also providing clarity on the corporate guarantee provided by related persons. Also, clarity is awaited on wreck and salvage values in motor insurance claims. Clarity is likely to be extended on whether there is a clear decision on extended warranty provided by manufacturers to the end consumer. Several proposals of the insurance sector, such as supply between lead insurance and co-insurer, on transaction of ceding commission between insurer and reinsurer. The Council is also likely to reduce the rate of TCS collected by e-commerce operators for supplies made through them from present 1% to 0.5% and a lot more. Let's see what all does the Council take up when it meets on June 22nd.
Right, Timsy, thanks a lot for that. A lot to look forward to ahead of that GST Council meeting. Now, meanwhile, the Heavy Industries Ministry has set up a task force to formulate a new capital goods policy. Sources have said that emerging sectors like artificial intelligence, robotics are likely to get a leg up. Parikshit Luthra joins us now with the details. Parikshit, give us a sense. What are your sources telling you?
One of the first decisions taken by the NDA 3.0 government was to begin work on a new capital goods policy. Sources say the Ministry of Heavy Industries has formed a task force to work towards a National Capital Goods Policy 2025. This task force is headed by Secretary Heavy Industries and has 17 industry bodies and 15 ministries as members. One of the key objectives is to review the shortcomings in the Capital Goods Policy 2016 and work towards a framework that can make India a global champion in capital goods. The government is considering ways to include new and emerging areas in manufacturing like automation, robotics, AI and Internet of Things. One of the key priorities is to promote export-led growth and reduce import dependence, and also focus on niche technologies and high-end technologies in India. Industry sources say India needs a new outcome-oriented capital goods policy, as the earlier one has not been effective in demand generation and promoting exports. CNBC TV 18 has learned that industry bodies have recommended a new policy which puts emphasis on machinery used in energy transition, as energy transition is a $120 trillion opportunity. The industry also wants clarity on how the 1 lakh crore R&D corpus announced in the budget will be utilized for the capital goods industry. The industry has told the government that while the current share of capital goods in India's manufacturing is 12%, there is a strong potential to take it to 25%, and a focus on capital goods can increase India's manufacturing GDP overall, also exports. We would like to reduce heavy imports of capital goods or machinery used in manufacturing and become a key exporter. Currently, China is the largest exporter of capital goods, followed by Germany, US, Italy and Hong Kong.
Right, Parikshit, thanks so much for that. Now, the Coal Ministry will be putting out 60 blocks for auctions on the 21st of June in Hyderabad. This will be the 10th round of commercial auction of coal mines. Out of 60 blocks, 16 mines are from Odisha, 15 from Madhya Pradesh, 15 from Chhattisgarh and 6 mines from Jharkhand. 24 of these 60 coal mines are fully explored, while 36 are partially explored. And the Adani Group plans to invest $100 billion over the next decade in energy transition projects. That's the word coming in from Adani Group's chairman, Govt Adani. The investment announcement came as the company is setting up facilities to manufacture green hydrogen, wind turbines and solar panels.
The next decade will see us invest more than $100 billion in the energy transition space and further expand our integrated renewable energy value chain that today already spans the manufacturing of every major components required for green energy generations.
And India's Internet and Mobile Association, or IAMAI, has moved the Supreme Court against the government's new self-declaration portal for digital advertisements, as well as advertisements across all formats. Now, they have said that the government's mandate could have severe impact on the ad ecosystem. This move comes a day after the government's self-certification portal went live following a Supreme Court directive. The advertising industry has slammed this move as a one-size-fits-all approach and claimed that the rules for television are being forced upon the digital ecosystem. Further, the industry has said that such a move will impact the overall ad ecosystem.
Just the way in which the court has directed the government to implement this intention is something which is very problematic when it comes to ease of doing business. Now, imagine as a citizen, if you have to wake up every day and say that, hey, I'm not a criminal, right? Instead of somebody flagging you that, you have done something wrong and therefore the law should apply to you.
This entire concept of self-declaration is something that has never been in place. The Rule 7 simply lays down that advertisements need to comply with certain guidelines. They need to be not obscene, compliant with normal moral codes and ethics, etc. But it does not have a mechanism self-declaration, which has now been introduced.
And coming up on India Business Hour, Oracle engineer and American fast bowler Saurabh Netravalkar has played a pivotal role in his team's rise this T20 World Cup. How does he juggle both the roles? Find out from the man himself in just a bit. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. Well, here's a quick look at the national headlines. 15 people have reportedly died of a heat stroke in Delhi NCR in the last 72 hours, while 5 of the victims were from Delhi. The remaining were from Noida. New Delhi continues to face a severe water shortage amidst the scorching heat, forcing residents to stand in long queues to get water from tankers. Delhi's Water Minister Atishi has alleged that the Haryana government has refused to release water to Delhi despite multiple requests, urging Prime Minister Modi to intervene in this matter. Atishi warned that she will sit on an indefinite fast from 21st of June if the issue remains unresolved. And heavy rainfall, meanwhile, in parts of Assam, along with a rise in water levels in the Brahmaputra River, has led to floods and landslides in the state. Over 160,000 persons across 15 districts have been impacted. According to the State Disaster Management Authority, more than 30 people have been killed. Karimganj district has been the worst affected so far. And former U.S. Congress Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other members of an American delegation met the Dalai Lama in Dharamshala today. China, which considers the Tibetan spiritual leader a dangerous separatist, has protested against this visit. Pelosi's visit comes after the U.S. House of Representatives voted in favor of a bill to push China to hold talks with Tibetan leaders and resolve the long-standing dispute.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama, with his message of knowledge and tradition and compassion and purity of soul and love, he will live a long time and his legacy will live forever. But to you, President of China, you'll be gone and nobody will give you credit for anything.
A report by the United Nations Human Rights Office has said that Israeli authorities are responsible for war crimes in Gaza. The report has also condemned crimes against humanity by Hamas and other armed groups. At least 17 people were killed in refugee camps in just the last 24 hours, according to Hamas officials. At least 550 pilgrims have allegedly died this year at the Hajj pilgrimage due to extreme heat. As per Arab diplomats, more than 300 of those who died were Egyptians. Earlier this week, temperatures hit 51.8 degrees Celsius at Mecca's Grand Mosque. Saudi authorities reported treating over 2,000 pilgrims suffering from heat stress, but they haven't made informations on deaths public yet. Red carpet, red roses, honor guards, and a massive crowd cheering Russian President Putin was greeted with a lavish welcome in Pyongyang on his first visit to North Korea in 24 years. The visit comes at a time when both are facing sanctions from Western democracies. The countries have signed a comprehensive strategic partnership pact, which is set to include cooperation in healthcare, education, and science. The pact has also made a provision of mutual assistance in the event of aggression against either of the two nations. Putin thanked Kim for his support in their fight against the imperialist policy of the United States and thanked him for their unwavering support on Ukraine.
We highly appreciate your consistent and unwavering support for Russian policy, including the Ukrainian strand. I am referring to our fight against the hegemonic policy imposed for decades, the imperialist policy of the United States and its satellites against the Russian Federation.
Our two countries' relations have been elevated to the new higher level of an alliance, laying the legal groundwork for the grand ideals of leadership of the two countries and longing of our people to build a strong country while firmly protecting the peace and security in the region and the world in line with the common interest of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Russian Federation.
Now, he loves coding as much as he likes to decode the weaknesses of star batsmen from opposing teams. Oracle engineer Saurabh Netravalkar has played a pivotal role behind the United States cricket team, pulling out a miracle in the ongoing T20 World Cup. Now, having once represented Mumbai in the Ranjis, Saurabh now heads his team's pace attack. In an exclusive conversation with CNBC TV 18 Shibani Garat, Netravalkar talks about how he juggles a job at Oracle on one hand and his stint with the United States cricket team on the other.
Leading up to it was obviously nostalgic because I've played for India, grown up in India. In my under-19 days, I've played for India. So I was looking forward to the platform, looking forward to meeting the players, most of them who I've played with and against. From a cricketing perspective, one of the best teams in the world. So no margin for error. Your 100% also might not be enough to challenge them. So both teams, like both the top teams that we played, the goal was to give our best game and then see if we can create a window of opportunity. That was cricketing wise. And yeah, it was emotional, but yeah, we love to have that platform, and we made a good fight of it, I thought.
Yeah. We all speak about, balancing your work and your passion, and you are someone who is, doing it and absolutely smashing it out of the park. Sort of, how do you do it? How do you balance, your work with the sport, and that too at the highest level?
So I think first and foremost is the passion and the love that I have for the game and for my work per se. So anything that I do at that moment of time, I try to give 100% to it, try to go into the depths of what I try to do. The challenge there is basically to smartly use your time. Because you have enough heads up in the US where there's a tournament or a major tournament, or if I'm having a major project release at work. So you sort of have to be smart to divert your resources to what you're trying to achieve next. So I'm being flexible in that terms, where you want to peak at the right time. So you start increasing your cricket training workloads just before the tournament. But at the same time, make sure when there's downtime in cricket, you still hit the gym, you still do your fitness, but your focus is on your work at that time.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's a day by day, take it day by day, week by week, and see what needs to be focused on and get done.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV 18.